Hey there, it's Fabian the Blind speaking, and I'm happy to release AEMap into the wilderness. So, if you downloaded the script, you will have a zip file. Open it, and in here you have the AEMap script, the AEMap utilities, and the World GeoJSON folder. In this folder, there's the geodata and some README stuff. It's important that the World GeoJSON folder lies next to the AEMap JSX, so the After Effects can get the geodata for building your maps. Drop these three into your script UE panels, and you're good to go. If you need to know where to find your script UE panels, go over to aescripts and check out the tutos on that. You can find the script under Window, AEMap, and there it is. You can define some options for your compositions like 3D. If you check this checkbox, all your newly created layers will be 3D and the transformations get collapsed. The Add Zoro tag, who adds tags Zoro style. This is for another script, Zoro the layer tagger. You can find it at aescripts.com. It's a great script if you have to deal with a bunch of layers and want to keep your compositions tidy. Next, the Use Timestamp checkbox. If you check it, the script will create the new comp with the name you gave it and a unique timestamp. This is pretty useful if you're working with the add stroke effect, because this one is linked via expressions from within the comps to the master comp that's created. And if you have two folders, two comps with the name world map, maybe the expression could get confused. So it's good to have these timestamps. The scale. The scale accepts floating point values like 1 or 1.5. If you add some text, it will warn you that this is not a scale. The basic scale of the map is 360 times 180 pixels, and here you can define a different scale. Like if you want it really big or really big, 360 times 180 times 80, do the math. That's the maximum, I think. I keep it at 1. I don't need it big right now. I keep it at 3. That's a nice number. Next one, the duration in seconds. This also accepts floating point values like 23.5 or 12.7 or something like that. This is the duration in seconds for your newly created comp. These were the comp settings. Not a lot to fiddle around with. I just put on the stroke and add the Zoro tags, use the timestamp, and leave the 3D off so I can show you something else later and make it 10 seconds. In the color settings, we got some predefined colors you can use, like black, white, gray, and so on. And we got the random mode. This creates random colors, pretty straightforward. And the HSL color mode. And if you use the HSL color mode, all these fields will enable, and you can edit your HSL colors or the colors of your newly created map via the HSL model. Let me show you what that means. Show you a color picker so we can talk about HSL. So the range. The range is the way our selector takes on the circle. This is a 360 range once around this circle. So if you set the range to 180, always lose the 1. it would create colors for your countries from red to blue. And if you set it to 90, it would go till green. If you set it to 270, it would go till this lilac. Make it a little brighter so we can see a bit more. The offset, also in degrees, is the starting point of our color selector. So if you set the offset to 180, the color selector would start with blue, and right now in our settings go over to red. Next, we got the saturation in percent and the lightness in percent. The saturation is the radius our circle has. So if you set a saturation to 0, it will end up white. If you set your saturation to 100%, you get the strongest colors. And the lightness in percent is this slider here right now that defines the lightness of our color wheel. So fiddle around with it, make some nice colors. To get you started to know how these colors work, I defined some presets for you, like lilac to red. You see it starts at 60. The range is 60 and the offset is 300. Or we got the Pastafari colors, starts at 120 and starts at 0, goes to 120. So, what colors we take? I take the Pastafari and let's draw a map. Bring this over here so we can see something and run. And we're done. Great. Logging off after 100 seconds. So, our map is done. What happened? You remember we added the stroke effect, the timestamp, and the Zoro text. The timestamp you see here is this number in the comp name. The Zoro text. I open up Zoro the layer tagger, just dock it over here, and you can add text to layers in your composition, and you can select them then via Zoro. No text found. Oh, that's sad. Now he found some text. You see, every country is tagged with its name. So maybe we just want to see Antarctica. It's always pretty interesting there. Yeah. With Zoro, you can isolate these layers. This really, really, really fastens up your workflow. You can give separate names and stuff like that and reset it again or reset, and there we have our map. Great thing, it's worth its money. Close panel. So we don't need this script anymore, so I close it also. What else? We added the stroke effect. If you need a stroke on your map, you can add it via the controller. It's locked when it's created. And you got some settings here. You can define the color of the stroke, you can define the weight of the stroke, the hardness of the brush, and the opacity of the stroke. So I give him, I show you, give him a black stroke, set it maybe to quarter res, so he renders faster. Give him a weight of 4 pixels and 100% opacity. And there you see we got a nice black stroke on our map. Make it a little thinner. Quarter res, you can't see it. So we go to half res. There you got your stroke in full res. Great, isn't it? The stroke, as I told you, is controlled via expressions. And it's in here. Got the effect, stroke effect. And I show you the expressions there. Exactly the same, just a difference with the color picker. First of all, I show you for the brush size, just the slider. It's linked up to the comp, world map with our timestamp. It's good to have the timestamp, as I told you. Gets the controller layer, the stroke weight effect. It's just a slider that I renamed, and this is the slider. This is a match name. This works in English, German, all the languages After Effects is released. And the same expression is here in the brush hardness and in the opacity of the stroke. And here it's a stroke color, so it's the color selector. Pretty easy. If you need to link up something else, just add your master comp to the controller, add an expression controller, like add another slider. I name it start. Just lock this. Go over to maybe Afghanistan. It's in everybody's mouth right now, or since years. And just copy your expression from one already set property, alt-click the stopwatch and paste the expression here, and change the effect from stroke opacity to start. There we go. I zoom in on this. So we can animate the start of the effect. This is right now only Afghanistan, because only Afghanistan is linked. If you need some more directly within the script, so you can link up all of them, tell me, I can just link them up. I didn't need them, or maybe you don't need them. We will see. Now let's talk about 3D. I told you that I'll leave out the 3D switch so I can show you something later on. Maybe you didn't leave out the switch to show something, you forgot to add the 3D option. For that I prepared the utilities. What we got here? We got here some tiny tools that can help you while building maps, doing animation with maps, or just while doing animation. You can use them for other stuff as well. We got the sequencer, the 3D and collapse, set duration, bake expressions, the tiny tools, and the settings. First of all, I was talking about 3D. I show you the 3D and collapse option. So you forgot to make your comps 3D and collapse them all. You just bring up the utilities, select a bunch of layers you want to have 3D, hit the button, and they're 3D. If you need to collapse them also, they're collapsed. All these actions support the undo, like edit, undo, or this. And if you need to have all the pre-comps also 3D within your comp, you see they are not collapsed, they are not 3D. You can just check the pre-comps option, select the layers you need 3D, or just select them all, and say, let's do it in a quarter res. Collapse and 3D. You don't actually have to say it while hitting the button, but it's great to say it. And while you're waiting, you can think about calling everything you think before you do it. There we go. It's 3D, it's collapsed, so now you can zoom in. It doesn't matter what size you created the map in. Pretty nice. The sequencer allows you to offset your layers by a defined number of frames. So maybe we need a sequence with 10 frames offset. Just select your layers, show you, select your layers, and hit sequence selection. And there you go, you got your sequence. Everything is building up. If you didn't set your duration of your layers right, let's say you made them 10 seconds, but you need them 23 seconds, like in the preset, just type in your duration. It supports floating point values. If it's seconds, if it's frames, it only supports digits. And it tries to recalculate the right number of frames for your seconds. If this right now is set to 25 frames per second default, if you need to change this, you can change the calculation base here. This doesn't change the frame rate of your composition. This only affects how set duration calculates your frames to seconds and seconds to frames. So we got them at typed in 23 seconds, and we hit set duration, and we're done. Just make this comp also 23 seconds, and you see everything is 23 seconds. The script, that's the important thing, also steps in all pre-comps and tries to set the duration for every layer. So don't try to use it within your process, use it before you do your animations. This could end up with weird stuff if there are already keyframes there, and, you know? Next one. Bake expressions is essentially, it's only calling the keyframe assistant. Wait, I show you. Maybe I Zoro South Africa. You can see South Africa. And add some expressions. What it does is go into the keyframe assistant and call this menu item. But you can select several expressions and hit bake expression, and bam, you got them baked. This also supports undo. If you don't check this checkbox and you hit bake expressions, he bakes every expression on every selected layer. Let me undo that. I'll show you. I'll show you some more. Like this. So we select them both, hit bake expressions, and there you go, your cake is ready. Tiny tools. The tiny tools are just one-shot scripts they don't have an option, they only have one button, and they allow you to do some tedious works like remaining a bunch of source layers, like giving them new names. If you give them new names within your composition and you want them to be also the names of their source compositions, just say, don't say it, hit the button name to source. Please select the composition, yeah, name to source. And there we go. The source name has changed. Also undo that. There we go. And the same thing, source name to name. If we change where we have Zimbabwe, we can see where we are. If we change the name of Zimbabwe within the project, select it in the comp, hit the source to name button, and there we go. We got the layer name changed to the source name. Next one, mark up a frame. Maybe you need some markers for cutting up a layer into several pieces or something like that. You can use the markup per frame option by setting your work area, selecting a layer, hit markup per frame, and there you go, you got a marker per every frame. Markup a pre-comps. For that I have to prepare something. I just solo our hello world comp, go in there, duplicate that layer a bunch of times, use the sequencer to offset them, go back into the master comp, this is already soloed, and select my composition, go to the tiny tools and hit markup a pre-comp, and it adds at the in point of every pre-comp within this selected comp a marker. This is good if you need to see some cuts, need to see some sequences, need to see some starting points. Cam with dolly. Pretty easy what it does. I show you, I make some 3D layers here and hit cam with dolly, and he builds a cam with a dolly for us. There are also some expression controllers on that dolly, so you can control wiggle expression within the dolly. If you need some camera shake, it's also always pretty useful. Give him some strange. There you go, it wiggles. Let me undo that. And the last one, new render lock. So we add our composition to the render queue, go into the render list and duplicate the output model a bunch of times and just hit new render lock. This is a good folder, and he's done. What did he do? I'll show you. He added for every output module a folder with a name and a number. And this is useful if you do several image sequences from one comp, or you do some have a heavy render list with 20 items. You don't have to define every time a new folder. It just puts them in here and makes for every item a folder. The script looks in the folder. If this folder already exists, it doesn't create a second one, it uses this one without warning. So if something is in the folder, it could get overwritten. Be aware of that. And we're nearly done. The last thing we have is the settings. As I already told you, the base frame rate you need for the calculation, and button to open the online resource. This is a quick help that tells you what's going on in there. And that's it. Have fun. Do some maps. If you create something beautiful, show me.